Call Nick Ferrari at breakfast, 0845 60 60 973. LBC 97.3.
Why is it a crime to try and park in Westminster City Council area if you do not have a mobile phone? Or to put it the other way, the only way you can park is if you possess a mobile. Surely that's unfair. The last time I looked, it wasn't actually a statutory requirement to have a mobile phone when you went for a drive. I had enormous problems. Why we had to get rid of the old coin-operated machines, I have no idea. If you haven't been through it, if you haven't tried to do it, then one of our callers will explain exactly how it's done in just a second. But let me assure you, I have an education to a moderate standard, not that high, but I really, really struggled with it. You might have done as well. It is simply driven by mobile phones. Here to explain how it went wrong for him, there's a caller who's reminding me of this, and it's actually why we're doing the story. Sebastian Allain is in Blackheath. He joins me now. Can I call you Sebastian?
Yes, that's fine.
OK, so what exactly happened? When was it, and what happened?
Basically, early last week, I got out my car up in side street of Oxford Street, and I noticed that I had to pay by mobile phone rather than the odd pay and display machine. So what you have to do is usually text in with all your details. You're given an area code to where you park, and you text that along with all your card details. So I was happy to do it, did it once, got a text message within 2 minutes saying it didn't go through.
Did it give the reason that it hadn't gone through?
No, not at all. It just said it hasn't gone through, do it again.
Right. I see, OK.
I did it again, and I got exactly the same text message within the next 2 minutes again. So I didn't want to keep just wasting my credit on my telephone.
Sure.
Instead of just continuously texting them for the next hour, I decided to go and try and find a payphone. But as I'm sure you've noticed as well, in London they've decided to get rid of all the payphones for no certain reason. So after walking around about 2 blocks of London next to Oxford Street, I decided that I'd go back to the car, probably park somewhere else. So as I got back to the car, I found a nice shiny ticket on my windscreen.
Did they, the texts that you got back, they never said what you were doing wrong. Did you find it too complex, or do you have any sense of what might not have worked?
Well, no, I mean, I'm now used to technology. I'm growing up in that generation, and usually it's a lot easier than everyone makes out. But they didn't make it easy at all. I mean, it's bad enough that they don't like mobile phones in London, obviously with the payphones and everything, but now that they don't let you just put coins in a machine, it's getting harder and harder. And even, you can't go into London without a mobile phone, and you can't go into London without a debit card now.
Okay. Lastly, before I let you go, just give us an idea. Are you educated to a fairly high level? Did you benefit from that, or what sort of thing?
Well, yeah, I am. I went to a public school, but I mean, it's not. You don't have to go to a public school to be able to. No. But I was just wondering. And you're familiar with computer systems and internets and God knows what else, which unfortunately you should have probably. Generation, so
you have, yeah.
How it all works. Yeah.
Can I ask what sort of age? If you don't have to answer this, Sebastian, what sort of age are you?
I'm 18.
18. All right. Yeah. Thanks very much indeed. That's Sebastian Allain, who struggled with that problem. Now, listening to that is the man who is possibly responsible for this and can perhaps give us some ideas. Alastair Gilchrist is Director of Parking at Westminster Council. Mr. Gilchrist, why is it a crime not to have a mobile?
Well, g'day, Nick.
Now, don't try and get off the hook just by showing that you've been listening to the programme, Cobber. Why is it a crime not to have a mobile?
Well, look, Nick, it isn't a crime. It absolutely is not a crime. But we have set this service up because people actually like it. We did a survey recently.
Well, that caller didn't, with respect, and I had enormous battles.
I accept not everyone's going to like it, and we do have alternatives. About half the machines, half the parking spaces in London are still the old pay and display type. So we've got those, and we've also got 5,000 off-street car parking spaces. So, you know, there is plenty of choice out there.
But they're not at the same rate. Some of those are very expensive, aren't they?
I think it all works out round about the same.
Right, OK. How complex is the system? Have you had a number of complaints? If so, what can be done to improve it?
Well, sure. I mean, the system, we're making it easier. When we introduced it first, we thought we'd try out the text system of registering, we'll try out the online method of registering on the phone. Now, it turns out people have used all of them, but people prefer ringing up, speaking to a human being, or doing it online. So, you know, the text service of registering is a bit clunky, and we'll probably do away with it.
So what will it move? Oh, you will be doing away with this text message system?
Well, it will be there as an option if people want to use it, but to be honest, I think it may be much better if people could ring up and speak to a human being. So that's what we're planning to introduce by the end of this month.
What sort of time?
By the end of this month, Nick, we're going to have people on the end of the telephone to take your details from you, just to make it as easy as possible.
So you have had a number of complaints?
Oh, sure. I mean, we've been doing a trial system.
How many have you had?
Oh, crumbs, I haven't counted.
But would it be thousands?
Certainly in the hundreds, but no more than that.
No more than a few thousand.
Well, when you think about it, Nick, we've registered 1 million transactions through this service through 200,000 customers. So, we have not had the level of complaints that even we expected when we brought this service in.
But what of that bloke with whom I was just speaking? He didn't seem to do anything wrong. He went off to try and get a proper phone, a payphone, to try and sort it out, and he got ticketed. Yeah,
well, look, our policy in this situation, and let me, tell all your listeners about this. If you try and pay and you make a legitimate attempt to pay, and we can tell that from the details left on the system, then if it's your first time, then we will let you off that ticket. That's the way we work. We're fair, reasonable people in Westminster. And,
can you just repeat that so everybody heard that last bit? We're what?
We're fair and reasonable people. Contrary to popular belief.
Lastly, I had the Mayor in last week, I think it was last Wednesday, just briefly respond to a little of what he said. Here's Mayor Livingston, of course pointing out that it's not actually under his jurisdiction.
The only roads I am responsible for in London are the red routes. Okay. Everything else is your local borough. And I can't tell you, the number of times people come up to me and they start to berate me about the parking fine regime, the lack of bays, the way in which it's operated. I
appreciate it's not your jurisdiction.
I don't think it's fair at all.
Because
I think
there are people who haven't got mobile phones.
Councils like Westminster, I'll give you an idea of it. A third of all the journeys in London are on the red routes that TfL runs. And yet we are one of the smaller authorities in terms of fines. Westminster Council's making much more out of fines and penalties than we are. I think they're almost making as much as they get from the council tax.
Have you ever tried, I know you're not, but on behalf of you or your partner, have you ever tried to pay through a mobile phone?
Oh, no. Well,
it is unbelievably complex.
About the only times, I regularly have to struggle with these things is when we take the kids down to the zoo and they're still working on coins, thank God.
Yeah, well, honestly, if ever you can...
No, I think it's absolutely right, because, not everyone has a mobile... I know most people have a mobile phone. Look, I used to love it before I had a mobile phone. The only reason I have a mobile phone is because I ran for mayor.
Alastair Gilchrist, lastly, you'll still need a mobile. I appreciate you're going to put someone on the end of that mobile, but you'll still need a mobile, in fact.
Well, no, not necessarily. As I said earlier on, we're going to have about 5,000 spaces, about the same number of spaces that you can pay with on a pay and display machine, and, there's still an off-street car park.
And no more erosion of the old coin style, then?
Well, the problem with coins is we had a massive problem with vandalism and theft. We were losing about £120,000 a week from our meters being vandalised or jammed or stolen from. So, this is money that's not going into crime. This is money that's going back into Westminster, back into improve the roads, the streets, and all the services we provide.
Do you make as much?
Yeah, we're approximately... If you, from a surplus point of view, no, we don't. So remember, councils don't make profits; they just make surplus. So it costs us a lot to run this enforcement operation. Whatever we make goes back into roads, bridges, taxi cards, concessionary schemes. So councils aren't there to make profit. They're there for their residents.
Cheers, Digger, I think is how I have to finish. And thanks very much indeed for your time. Alastair Gilchrist is Director of Parking at Westminster Council. Your reactions on that follow this.
Call Nick Ferrari at breakfast. 0845 6060 973. LBC 97.3.
9 minutes before 9. Paul's in Thornton Heath. Let's get straight to the conversation about this Westminster parking. Did that make sense to you, what you heard, Paul?
No, not at all. I got probably one of the very first tickets as a consequence of that mobile phone setup. And I was so incensed by the whole concept that I did a bit of research on Westminster's website, and I looked at the rules governing the service that they were installing. And at the time, I'm not sure if it remains the same, one of their rules was that they would always provide a cash alternative to the system, because they acknowledge that, for example, your mobile phone could be out of service because of the mobile phone.
But are they getting round that? Sorry to talk over you. Are they getting round that by saying that there are paid-for bays as well, the conventional paid-for bays as well?
Well, they can probably get around that where they are, but there are areas where there are none, and there are none within walking distance and reasonable walking distance. So
I wonder if this needs a good legal challenge, this whole idea, Paul.
My ticket cancelled because I told them that their website said there'll be a cash alternative, and therefore I looked for one and didn't see one, and that was the end of it.
Well, that's interesting. That's worth looking at. Sorry, go on, finish off. Sorry, Sport.
Yeah, my ticket was cancelled, so I would advise anyone who falls foul of this. I'm on the road now, as I said to your researcher, or I would have got on the web to see if it's still there. Because as long as that clause is still there, I'm not paying it. I'm not doing it by mobile phone. I don't have to have a mobile phone.
No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you're absolutely right, Paul. Thank you for that, and that's really useful advice, and I'm very grateful to any of you who might have fallen foul of this. Get on that website quick. They're probably removing it even as we speak, but have a look at it because it could well help you along. Paul, thank you.
Call Nick Ferrari at breakfast, 0845 60 60 973. LBC 97.3.